Hello, and welcome to Trans Truth, the podcast dedicated to dispelling myths, fear, and ignorance about transgender people. Along the way, we'll be sharing items of interest to the transgender community, from political and news events to health, fashion, and beauty. And now, let's have a look at some news items that should be of interest to our listeners. The Arkansas Advocate reports that Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin has asked the full 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in St. Louis to review the permanent injunction granted by U.S. District Judge James Moody in July against that state's Save Adolescents from Experimentation, or SAFE Act. That law, one of dozens enacted in red states this year, was yet another attempt to pretend to protect children by banning evidence-based, gender-affirming, and often life-saving medical care for minor patients. We should note that none of the therapies used in the management of gender dysphoria in adolescents are actually considered experimental by any regulatory or credible professional body. KTLA reports that the Orange Unified School District is just the latest of several school districts around California to enact policies that require school officials to notify parents when a student requests to be identified by a name or pronouns that do not match the student's official record. As Trans Truth has noted before, these policies, as enacted, will almost certainly cause some students to come to emotional and even physical harm because many, if not most, parents are ill-informed on gender identity issues. If the school boards and the right-wing activists pulling their strings really wanted to protect kids, these policies would require some kind of intervention with the family, facilitated by someone trained to deal with gender issues and to recognize signs of abuse or potential abuse. Right-wing presidential candidate Nikki Haley took part in a staged roundtable discussion about parents' rights. Among the topics, parents' right to know when their kids have identified as gender variant.
Yes, moms are going to get their backs up. Yes, dads are going to get their backs up. Because now I look at what's happening in the Manchester School District. The idea that a mom would not know that anything related to the child thinking transgenderism, whatever was happening, and you not tell the parent, like, that's malpractice in the worst way, because guess who that child goes home to at night? The parents. If the parents don't know how to protect and support that child, in what world do the teachers or any government bureaucrat think that they know better than the parents? That's what's bothering me.
That was Haley, wondering in what world teachers and school officials would know more about what their kids needed than their parents. To answer your question, Nikki, that would be the real world. To be clear, parents absolutely have a right to know about something that important involving their children. But to simply out a kid to parents who are, more likely than not, ill-equipped to deal with that is the exact opposite of actually protecting those kids. Again, we at Trans Truth vigorously dispute the notion that all the propaganda coming from the GOP and other right-wing hate groups had anything to do with actually protecting children. Indeed, we assert vigorously that, as typically enacted, these measures will almost certainly cause harm to transgender children, and we base our review on the overwhelming body of opinion from every credible professional body that deals with adolescent gender issues. And finally, speaking of challenging popular right-wing propaganda, we just had to share a story from NBC News about Montana State Representative Zoe Zephyr, who you may remember was censured and silenced by Montana State House Republicans earlier this year for daring to speak out about the harm proposed legislation would do to the children the Republicans were pretending to want to protect.
We need access to the medical care that saves our lives. And these are hollow words coming from someone whose amendments are going to make it harder to access that care. If you disallow the use of the medical care that is accepted by every major medical association, if you disallow that care and don't allow people to have access to that, the only therapy left is either A, meaningless, or B, conversion therapy, which is torture. And then the only thing I will say is if you vote yes on this bill and yes on these amendments, I hope the next time there's an invocation,
Zephyr,
when you bow your heads in
Montana's
prayer, you see the blood on your
trans
hands.
state legislator, almost immediately gained national notoriety, causing the mostly white, hetero male group of Republicans to probably regret that move. Anyway, it's a very uplifting story about a brave young woman speaking truth to power, and a community that has rallied behind her. Highly recommended reading. As always, links to the sources for these reports are in the episode notes at www.transtruth.info. Hello again, and welcome back to Trans Truth. I'm your host, Kelly Nelson. She, her, hers, and I'm joined as always by my co-host.
I'm Jerry Ann. My pronouns are also she, her, and hers.
And tonight we are joined by one of the movers and shakers of the Woodlands Pride Festival coming up next month, October 21st, in Town Green Park. Rachael, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on tonight. My name is Rachael Walker. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the engagement specialist and community outreach chair with the Woodlands Pride.
Okay. Rachael, first of all, let's start with the history. How did you become involved with Woodlands Pride?
So the very first year that the Woodlands Pride had a festival, I had seen just a random Instagram post. You know how Instagram will kind of show you things that you should follow based on where you live, and it popped up, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting a Pride in the Woodlands. That's amazing. And so my mom and I went the first year, and we actually didn't make it very much inside the festival because we stood outside with our free mom hug signs. We didn't go affiliated with the official group.
That was you?
Yes.
I got one of those.
You did? Oh, that's so fun. I love that. Yep, that was my mom and I. And so we just kind of hung outside for most of the day, just giving out free hugs. And after that, they had sent out an email asking for people to interview for the board of directors. And so I interviewed for the board of directors, and Jason Rocha, our founder and president, reached out and said, hey, you know, I have a different idea for you. I would love it if you would come on and help with our social media, you know, kind of do, you know, different things in the community. You've got children in this community, so we'd really like to plug you in there. And so I began in 2019, not on the board of directors, but handling social media, you know, lots of events within the community, any kind of PR, and then just kind of got involved from there. And this is my first year actually on the board.
Well, it sounds like a familiar story, kind of falling sideways into becoming an activist.
Yes.
Yep. Same here. I think Jerry Ann had a question about what what uh, what Woodland Pride is about.
Yeah, well, there are Pride celebrations all over the world, actually, and but most of them occur during Pride Month, I guess, in the summer, heat of the
In
summer.
June, yeah.
So,
In
so,
June.
uh, so, tell us about Woodlands Pride and
Yeah.
why October?
Why October? Yeah. Well, I would love to say it's because, us cisgendered white girls love fall and a good pumpkin spice latte, but that's not why. Um, I would love it if that's why, but it's not. Um, our founder and president really wanted to focus on getting the word out to vote and getting people to register to vote. So originally, our very first inaugural festival was in September. And it was before the deadline to register to vote. So that's kind of how it originated. And then we got so much wonderful feedback about people liking there to be an additional Pride event later in the year. It is a little bit cooler. I wish it was much cooler. We're maybe only talking about 5 degrees, but we'll take it. And we just kind of fell into having it the last Saturday in October. It seems to be a good month in this area. With scheduling events in Town Green Park, and it's always been really well attended, and so we just kind of went with it.
That
Rachel,
oh, go ahead.
Rachel, you're originally
Yes.
from Texas.
No, I'm originally from the Midwest. I grew up in Northwest Indiana.
Oh, cool. And what brought you to Texas?
So I came to Texas. My mom and I moved here when I was 20, and just work and different things. I came with my mom. I was a college student, and I left Indiana University to move here with my mom. And just we kind of settled in. So I've technically been in Texas longer than I was ever in Indiana. But I just still am not used to the heat of the summer. I don't
Nobody
know.
is. Nobody is.
Not this year.
Am I wrong, or is it different this year?
It's hotter, way hotter.
It's hotter for
Okay.
longer. It's hotter for longer.
Yeah.
We started, with the ridiculous weather way too early in June. That never happens,
Yeah.
and it just got worse from there. I'm third generation
Okay.
Texan, and I promise you, you don't get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I forget that my children, I've got 4 children. I forget that they are Texans. They were born here. They're natives. And so sometimes, in the colder months, if we get a week where it's cold and they're complaining, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not even cold. And then I remember, oh yes, they did not grow up in Northwest Indiana where it was cold most of the time.
Right.
Okay, so you mentioned free hugs.
Yes.
Let's go there. Let's talk
Yes.
about the free hugs. What's that about?
So there is an official free mom hugs group, and I don't want to speak too much about how they started because I'm not officially with that group, but I believe it was started by a mom, right? And I believe their origin story is that they started because their town either newly had a pride or had a pride, but it was lacking a lot of support. And so, what do moms do? They organize. And so she started free mom hugs, and she would go to pride festivals and she would have a sign that said free mom hugs. And it started that way, just, with one person. And now I believe it's a nationwide organization. So Houston has a chapter. I'm not sure if Montgomery County has a chapter, but we've had them at our festivals. They usually always come to our festivals. So, and they come and they're lovely and they do what they say they do. They give out free mom hugs. And so my mom and I were there that first year, not officially with them, but in that spirit. And my mom still comes to the festival every year with her. She's changed it to free Mimi hugs, but she's become a big hit. She gets more hugs than I do.
I think it was her that gave me that hug in that first year.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I have even seen the free mom hugs gang at an Equality Texas political action event in Austin on the Capitol steps
Hmm.
back in March of this year. So they do
Yeah,
get around.
they do.
Spe-
Yeah, they try to be everywhere,
yeah.
which is nice. That's good. Yeah.
Speaking of Austin and legislation, I read recently that the Woodlands Pride is actually one of the plaintiffs in a lawsuit challenging Senate Bill 12. Is that right?
Yes, it is. And as a matter of fact, it has been temporarily blocked. I
For
believe
those
that
not familiar with it, Texas Senate Bill
yeah,
12 bans drag performances.
yes. And so it's been nicknamed the anti-drag bill, right? And I think the confusion, if you aren't somebody that's very plugged in, the way the title of the bill reads is, we're banning sexually explicit performances in front of children. And if you don't read any further into it, one might think, well, that's fine. I'm fine with that. Why would anybody want that? But if you read a little more into the bill, it's so vague that it is, well, essentially what it's doing is targeting, right, LGBTQ spaces.
Sure.
At the end of the day, that's what it's set to do. But the language is so vague. It would prevent drag performers from, say, doing a drag brunch, right? Because in the off chance that somebody brings their child, even a parent that consents to bringing a child. I've taken my oldest daughter she loves drag brunches. I've taken her to Hamburger Mary's. That is something, as a parent, I am okay with, and that's my right to decide. But this bill kind of puts in danger freedom of expression and art and lots of things. And what I think that a lot of people don't understand, especially cishet people, is that it also puts a lot of their favorite performers at risk too. Here in the Woodlands, we have the Woodlands Pavilion. It's a wonderful venue. We get a lot of popular performers, and that bill, the way it read, puts those kind of performances in danger. Just as an example, Snoop Dogg was here recently, right? And I grew up on 90s hip hop. And so I went and I took my two teenagers. Now, one of them is 19, but the other one is 17. I took them fully aware that there is some language and there could be some outfits but I was okay with that. They're old enough, I feel like. But the way that bill reads, performances like that won't be able to happen. So it targets more than just drag performances. So for now, we are celebrating because there has been a temporary block on it. And so we are continuing with planning our festival and including drag performers as we always have. And we're really excited.
We talk about this a lot. It's these kinds of bills, this kind of propaganda is not about protecting children. It's all about demonizing the other. And for the last couple of years, it has been the transgender and drag queen turn in the barrel, or turn as the target.
Yes. And they know what they're doing by using the safety of our children as their excuse, right? Because if you can direct the focus toward making it seem like this is harmful to children, well, you're going to rally, parents in the community. Unfortunately, it's not about protecting children, and it hasn't ever been about protecting children. Even the ban on transgender or on gender affirming care here in Texas has never been about protecting children.
No.
Because if it was, we would listen to the doctors and the psychologists and the psychiatrists.
Yeah. Our last two episodes have been about that very thing, about the ignorance. And I don't mean that in the pejorative sense, on the part of the general public. It's an easy sell to a propagandist to make people think that this is about protecting children.
So, Rachel, I had some distractions at the beginning of this call, and I may have missed this, but what is your connection to the LGBTQ plus community?
So I'm an ally. I have, that's basically kind of my only connection. My personal story, I guess how all of that originated, is, I grew up in a home with amazing parents who taught me that being part of the LGBTQ community is not bad. It's not a sin. It's not wrong. It's the way you are born. It's the way you're created. And everybody should be free to love who they love. And I had a cousin growing up that I was very close to. She was enough older than me that she almost was like a young, cool aunt, and I adored her. And she went through a divorce and started a relationship with a woman. And unfortunately, my grandmother disinvited her to Thanksgiving. And so my parents decided, well, then we'll just go to her for Thanksgiving. And so thus began this tradition of me and my mom and dad going to her house for Thanksgiving with her and what eventually became her wife and their two kids. And then it ended up, the next year after that, she had some of her lesbian friends come. And then after that, some more of them. And so it just became, I kid around and say it became like a big old lesbian Thanksgiving, but it really was. And it became this kind of like Thanksgiving of, people who maybe had been disinvited from their own Thanksgiving. And it was just they were all such lovely, wonderful people that I could never reconcile somebody saying that the LGBTQ community was harmful in some way or bad or child predators. To me, that just never made sense because the ones I knew in real life that I had been around and interacted with were amazing people and I loved them dearly. And so, that's just how it originated. And then when I moved here, got married, had kids, kind of got settled and never did much in Houston. It's so close, but so then when a Pride event popped up here, I was just so excited that we were going to have a Pride here in the Woodlands, Texas. And that was the year that my mom and I went as free mom hugs. And then following that is when I got involved doing social media, and now I'm on the board. I'm very thankful.
Well, first of all, bless you and your family and your parents
how
for
cool
bringing
to,
you up so right.
have a celebration that celebrates being human.
Yeah.
There's so many events and organizations that concentrate on pretending to be something that you're not.
Right.
Pretending to be, better than everybody else or as good as everybody else, but it's refreshing to have a celebration where people can be themselves.
Yes, and and my favorite thing about the festival is to kind of step back on the sidelines and watch people and just see the joy of maybe this is the only place that they feel truly valued and loved and accepted. And I know that many people have a space like that, but some don't. And it's just, it really is a joy and a privilege to be part of an organization that can provide that to people.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago today, there was a fundraiser sponsored by the Montrose Center. What's it called, Kelly? Kindred Spirits.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Kindred Spirits dance, and this year I bought a table for 10 and invited some guests. But I told Kelly that it really was intriguing. It was inspiring, refreshing to see people genuinely caring about each other. And you saw couples that that just transmitted love for each other. And at this table for 10, there were 4 trans women, there were 2 gay couples, and there were I think 2 lesbians and 1 genderqueer female. So we had quite a mix. We had United Nations of gender variance at my table.
We had the whole alphabet.
But it was really cool occasion, but it's quite different when you attend one of these and watch the people, like you were
Mhm.
saying a minute ago, um, and just watch the people enjoy themselves
Mhm.
instead of trying to maintain
Yeah.
pretenses like you see in so many
That
other activities.
that's the big takeaway from that first Woodlands Pride event I went to. Everybody was just having a good time, smiling, happy,
Mhm.
loving each other. And I have ever since that time wanted to tried to figure out how to share that. That's what that's like. There's nothing scary about it. There's
Right.
it. So that's why we're here. That's one of the reasons why we're here. So
I'm so excited to have y'all at the festival doing your podcast from the festival. We are so looking forward to
oh
that.
Yeah, we've done a remote broadcast before. We actually record it, so
Mhm.
we can edit it and make it and clean it up.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's so much fun to wave people down in passing and have them sit down and pick their brain. Why are you here? What does this mean to you? That kind of thing. So yeah, we're real excited. Evidently, we have a broad audience for our podcast. It's growing
Good.
every day. But yeah, we even had a, a weirdo give us a 1-star rating the other day.
yeah, it
Called us woke.
yeah.
Too
Oh yeah.
woke.
Well, yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
That was his number one complaint. It's just woke propaganda. Well, yeah.
Uh,
well, we appreciate
yeah.
the compliment. Actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It didn't do what they thought it did it?
yeah. We actually appreciate being accused of being enlightened.
Yes.
So, aside from Trans Truth being there with a remote podcast, what are some of the highlights for this year's event that people should know about?
So this year's festival, we are looking to incorporate some more variety in our performances. And so we have, I still kind of want to keep some of it, not a surprise, but until we have our lineup finalized, but I'll just kind of give you a general overview. We have a theater group from Houston that is going to come and do a little excerpt of one of their shows. So they'll have some of their performers putting that on, and they will have a booth at the festival as well, where you can go get some information. Well, as always, we'll have our lovely drag performers out that people always love. They're always the hit of the festival. And then we'll have some local musicians, hopefully some local singers. Pride Houston Band always comes out and opens us up for the festival, so we'll have that as well. And as usual, you can always look forward to lots of exhibitors, local businesses, small businesses, corporations, food trucks. We usually have a children's area where the little kids can go, bounce houses. So more of the same, but the same is what works, and we love it.
So, we know that sponsors and exhibitors make this free event happen. Are there any
Yes.
that you'd like to recognize, especially call
So
out?
we will be listing our sponsors in the next few weeks. We'll be putting that out. But I do want to emphasize that we get a lot of sponsorships from small local businesses as well. It's not just the big corporations. And so we are so thankful that our community believes in this festival so much that a small business the last 2 years has been our title sponsor.
Wow.
Yes. The Bry's Pet Sitting, lovely people. They're pet sitters here in the Woodlands, amazing pet sitters, by the way. And they've been our title sponsor the last 2 years. And we're so thankful that, our community surrounds us with that kind of support.
That's wonderful.
So, yeah,
That's wonderful.
it is.
Like I said, we're going to be there, all set up to record remotely. So
Nice.
Anybody that's planning on coming that wants to stop by and talk with us, you're certainly welcome. But I would ask you,
Okay.
Rachel, to pass along to all of the uh, sponsors and entertainers, anyone that has something to say, please feel free to
Okay.
drop by, and we will give you some air.
Yeah, I think they would love that. Well, we will definitely send people your way. I think I'm very excited to have that this year. I think it's such a fun little feature to the festival.
So your organization has another event coming up on November 25th. Is that right?
Is that the fun run? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Tell us
Yes.
about that.
Yes. I'm going to actually pull up that information so that I don't get it wrong. I am horrible with dates sometimes. But yes, so our sign-ups are live now. They went live today. You can sign up on Eventbrite. You can find the event on Facebook. So if you just go to our Facebook, you can look for the Facebook event. But on November 25th, starting at 8 a.m. at North Shore Park here in the Woodlands, we are having a fun run. And I want to emphasize fun because, one, it will be fun. But two, I've been told, I'm not a runner, but I've been told that it's important to know for runners that we will not be taking like an official start time or finish time, run time. Can you tell that I don't run?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll be on roller skates probably. But so yes, so we're having a fun run, and the name of the run is Run 6.26. So the inspiration draws from marriage equality on 6/26/2015. So that's kind of where it came from. So it's 6.26 kilometers. I was under the assumption that it was miles, and I was told today, no, Rachel, it's kilometers. And so I'm going to emphasize that. So easy little, I think, what is that? A little over 3 miles? 6.2 kilometers?
Okay, if you say so.
Sure, I don't know. Somebody else will figure that out.
Yeah, it's 3.6 miles.
Okay.
Oh, the math major speaks up.
Yes. And like I said, it's a fun run. So walk, run, jog. We encourage people to have fun with it. Wear costumes. We'll have a costume contest. Bring your kids, bring your partner, bring your dogs if you want to. And we'll just make a fun day of it.
Yeah. And once again, that is we've been throwing a lot of numbers around, but the event is on November 25th.
Yes.
25.
And signups are live. It's $35. And you can sign up starting today.
Cool. Well, we can make a notation of that on the website, right, Kelly?
We will certainly do that. Well, I'm out of questions. How about you,
I'm
Joanne?
good.
Well, Rachel, thank you again so much. Is there anything you'd like to throw out there to wrap up?
No, just to thank you for having me on today. We're really looking forward to having y'all out at the festival. I think what you're doing is such important work. So thank you for being a voice of truth right now in an environment where it's not always well received. So we are grateful, and we look forward to having you guys out at the festival.
All right. We will see you next month. You have been listening to Trans Truth, the podcast that speaks the truth about what it means to be transgender. If you are transgender yourself, you have a friend or loved one who is transgender, or if you are simply looking to understand more about the transgender experience, we hope that you have found this episode to be informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at info@transtruth.info. Copyright 2023 Trans Truth.